I mean, from the fro to the heels to the jumpsuit to the swag, she rocks it. Anacostia was ready for it all.
Does that jog your memory?
I had so much fun, and I was in heels. Who fights in heels like that, man?
So there's this sort of Camarilla party at the Opera House, very much inspired by Eyes Wide Shut. And the way that they're going to torture and kill this young woman kind of harkens back to traditional ways that witches were tortured. So this is a traditional night for them. There's a particular perversion in doing it on Samhain as well, because Samhain is a very, very sacred time for witches. So that's part of the ugliness of the whole night, is that it's happening on this very, very sacred day.
What Scilla and Anacostia are realizing is that the Camarilla are not just people who are angry and has great tactics. They're coming to the realization that the Camarilla is very, very well connected. They have many contacts and even leaders from the social and financial elite.
You know, finding out that Marcus Toombs is a Camarilla operative that's been embedded in the police force is meant to echo in a meaningful way with what we're finding out about our own world.
In episode 5, as I was reading it, it was in such amazing parallel to some of the things that erupted in 2020. The hatred and some of the injustices that have always kind of simmered underneath the surface, whether we're talking about the realities of today or the world that is Motherland. It's scary because these are the people that we're trusting to take care of us. That episode scared me.
Scylla's whole fire and the drive she has for her mission has been building up over the years she's been alive. But it was always, always about the liberation of witches. When Scilla sees the horrifying action that Shane has done in bringing Tiffany to a humiliating and horrible and painful death, it comes in handy that Scilla has some experience of infiltrating. Right there and then, she has to bring on a confusing but yet mesmerizing little speech to make them stop and buy them time so Anacostia can go and cut those dampeners.
As Anacostia is spending this time with Scilla and spending time away from the influences that have kind of raised her up, she is developing a bit of trust with Scilla.
I'm gonna have to borrow Amelia's jumpsuit.
Oh, we share clothes now.
Yes, I'm gonna need that coat too.
We have to put our differences aside. We may come from different sides of the coin, but we're both fighting towards the same thing. And she's really having to put her values and her morals on the line to make sure that she can get this thing done. When we're sitting there and we're watching this young witch about to be executed, I don't know that Anacostia necessarily knew what exactly to do in that situation. So having a Scilla who's been in those situations before, working in tandem with her was something I think they both needed, because without one or the other, that whole thing would have been a bust.
Scylla's a very complicated character by design. She will always surprise you. And in that moment when she decides to save Tiffany's life, it's an act of such nobility. Later in the episode, she kills a guy with a unicorn pencil. You know what I mean? And like, I think she's equally heroic there, because this is a guy who delivered a 9-year-old girl to a bunch of psychopaths. So if anybody's going to get stabbed with a unicorn pencil, I think it's him. Samhain is what we call Halloween, but for witches and for the soldiers at Fort Salem, Samhain is a time when the veil between the living and dead becomes very permeable. And then there is a exercise called the Lost Regiment that kind of replays every year on Fort Salem. The soldiers and Alder have devised a way to use that sort of echo from the past as a way to train soldiers in team building, and that has become the exercise known as protecting the hearth.
The regiment wanders these very woods, desperate to extinguish the flame. It's our job to stop them and keep the fire burning until the last stroke of midnight.
If you successfully defend your hearth, you get a very, very rare honor, which is in the form of a candle. You are instructed to find a quiet place, and then you light your candle and you name the dead that you want to commune with, and they have to show up.
Abigail calls upon Charvel, which is, it's very, very big for her. Right now, Abigail is very numb. She, in the previous episode, almost died because the Camarilla almost cut her throat out. At this point, she doesn't really feel like she has a purpose, she has meaning. And Charvel kind of, kicks her in her booty. She's like, what are you doing? You're a bellwether. You need to buck up and get your stuff together because this is what we're meant to do.
You are vengeance.
Really reminds Abigail what her mission is at this point in her life. That's kind of all Abigail needed to hear to kind of find a place for all of this frustration and anger and find a way to use all of that in a way that's sort of productive and scary, but essential.
Charvel set me straight. I need to get back to being me. I need to find the people who took her voice and get it back and bathe in their blood. I added that last part.
When Abigail finds out Adil is alive and they reunite, the Camarilla have tried to kill both of them. I don't think he's faced that adversity himself.
He's from a pacifist tradition. Violence is not a part of his life, but you can sense a sea change in Adil. This idea of sort of just taking it and taking it and taking it is not sitting well with him because it connects beautifully to what Abigail's going through and makes them a team in a way that they haven't really been before, which is exciting.
Being hunted gives you a unique perspective on survival. Doesn't it?
Time to make them feel hunted.